Hi, everybody, and welcome to another Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. I know it's slow in the world of sports. And you're saying to yourself, Mr. Moohead, why do you continue doing this? There's always this incredible dead patch when the All-Star game comes around in basketball. The football season is over. We can't yell and scream about the Browns. We really don't seem to get excited about the Cavaliers. And then there's the Guardians that nobody really cares about anyway. So why do I keep doing this? I'm a glutton for punishment. What can I tell you? There's always something to talk about in sports, even if it's not particularly of interest to people. I mean, let's be honest about it. During football season, what you have to say matters. This other stuff, it's just a matter of kind of come and go. But Radu is in the chat room, and yeah, the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game was ridiculous. I mean, but I think it illustrates something more significant than just that it was unwatchable. After the game, Adam Silver had something to say. Here's what he said to the winners. And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points, Silver said flatly. Well, congratulations. This is a fight between the league and the players. Let's be honest about this. Everything is about money. Yeah. And it's so sickening that it makes me vomit. They're going to continue playing this foolish game, and the players aren't going to try. And the fact of the matter is that if you're a player playing at this increased pace, an 82-game schedule, and the playoffs, why should you have to try hard in this game? Why should you have to try hard if people who deserve to be invited for certain specific things aren't invited? I mean, all the NBA cares about is publicity and money. It's all they care about. So they throw Donovan Mitchell into a 3-point shooting contest, and he did the right thing. God bless Donovan Mitchell. He pimped Sam Merrill, Money Merrill, on the back of his throwback Cavaliers jersey. But the real Money Merrill should have been in the 3-point shooting contest. But you see, the NBA doesn't criticize itself for continuing things without the proper people in them. And who is going to put themselves on the line for a 3-point shooting contest? Somebody who is considered to be a great 3-point shooter. But look at the names in there. It's just the people who the NBA wants to pimp. That's all it is. Publicity. Hey, one of these guys might become a star, and you know something? That'll help our publicity. We'll get more people to watch the games. Plenty of people are watching the games, but local fans don't give a shit about their local teams. Everybody has just jumped ship and care about the 4 teams that they're supposed to care about. That's what it's done. It's become consolidation. It's a consolidated league. So, and you know who they are. And then there's the second tier. The first one are the teams with the superstars. Okay. So if you know who Luka plays for, if you know who Giannis plays for, if you know who Embiid, when he plays for, if you know that, or if they're in a real sunny environment where Adam Silver loves to visit, you know who they are. And if a team has LeBron, you kind of know who that is. And if a team is from New York City, you kind of know who they are. That's what the NBA is. Now that's funny, Rick. I didn't think of it that way. It did. It looked like one of those Nelson Burton Jr. commentator with Chris Schenkel PBA television event scores. Nobody got to a 300 game. Yeah, the NBA wants to expand, but those teams, no one's going to give a shit about them. The fact of the matter is, nobody gave a shit about the NBA in Seattle, did they? And look how long it's taken Oklahoma City to get any interest in that team since Durant left. And even at that, does anybody really think the Thunder are going to do anything? They're playing good basketball, but they're not on the radar of the NBA. Hell no. Yeah, they want to expand in Vegas. Now, Super Bowl was in Vegas. Vegas. More publicity, more bright light shining. The fan gets less, pays more for it, and that's what you get in Cracker Jack. The little shitty toy in the box. That's what you get. It's just, and you know, David is mentioning, the Spectrum problem. You know, you upgraded your boxes, and bingo, Bally Sports not included. The channel's still available. It's just locked because you got to pay more for it. Ding, 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 ding. You know, one of these days, people are going to figure out that if they can fuck you, you can fuck them. And you can fuck them in any number of ways. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. If you want to watch the games, watch the games. If you want to pay for it, pay for it. Use your imagination as far as to what games you choose to watch. And that's all. It's not an honest world by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, the league pass, it is what it is. I mean, you go through this with football too, and you're just overpaying for something, and it's really annoying. It really is. But when it comes to something like the All-Star game, I like the break, so I can stop watching. It's like, all right, I've watched every Cavaliers game. I've been a good boy. I'm taking a rest. If you want to watch people in a skills challenge, dribble between their legs, or whatever the fuck you want to watch, feel free. I'm taking a break because I'm going to start watching the Cavaliers on Thursday when they resume playing with a tougher schedule in tow. I will support my team, but the league doesn't support my team in any way. The league only supports about 6 teams. That's all it is. And as long as you recognize that, then watch. If you don't like that, then don't give them money. It's really that simple. A 211 to 186 victory. Why the fuck is that? I'm not going to sit there and watch a two-sided layup line. That's crazy. But the worst part of it is that the same people who are putting on the All-Star show who are complaining about the players not trying hard are the people who have paid the officials to determine the outcome of the tournament at the end of the season. So realistically, I like to watch the Cavaliers because of their players. I like to watch the Browns because of their players. That's why I watch. How far do you go? That's in somebody else's hands, somebody else's pockets. I don't worry about that. Does a championship mean anything to me? Not anymore, no. Nope. And when we beat the Warriors, it meant something because they had the balls to let that final 4 or 5 minutes play out fair and square. They let two exhausted teams go at it. The home team didn't get an advantage. They said, okay, one of you teams is going to win this goddamn thing. And you can thank LeBron James for that, because without him, we wouldn't have been there. Take my word for it. They let the best team win, and the best team won. And you want to know what they did the next year? They made sure that Golden State and their dynasty got Kevin Durant. That's what they made sure of. Isn't that wonderful? So nobody was going to beat them. It's like, well, we let that happen. We can't let that happen again because they're the team. Now nobody gives a shit about them. I mean, Steph Curry, they still give a shit about him, but not. I mean, hell, they suspend Draymond Green. They don't care about that team anymore. That's somewhere in the past. Look at the Spurs. Look at Pop over there in San Antonio. Struggling to win 11, 12 games so far this year. What the hell is that? Nobody cares. Might as well be tumbleweeds running through San Antonio when it comes to basketball. And they're going to say, oh, look at Wemby. Look at Wembyana. Well, Wembyana is 19 years old, and he's not ready yet. He's really a fine young prospect, but they got to put a team around him. And the longer it goes that they can't or don't, he'll eventually get injured. Guy who's 7'4" and weighs 143 pounds. I mean, quite honestly, he's got to build up his strength. And if he wants to go ahead and put the ball between his legs and show how great he can dribble, I mean, he's a freak. I give you that. But guys built like him haven't done so well in the past. The NBA only bets, and they bet. Oh, yeah, they bet. They make a ton of money off bets. They only bet on the sure thing. And you know what that means? It means that Kyrie Irving is no longer the main cog. You let him play with a real superstar for publicity to help that team out, but he's not the force. There was a reason why Kyrie didn't get the keys to the car when LeBron left, because he's an asshole. That's why. He opens his mouth and nobody cares what's inside his head. Nobody cares. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He's nuts. And when he's done playing for a team, oh, it's not when his contract expires. It's when he's done playing for a team. And he stops trying. So the league keeps putting him in different places, saying, hey, you could revitalize basketball in New York. Still New Jersey. Don't try to lie to me. It's still New Jersey. Now you're gonna bring competition to New York, and look where they are now. It's back to Knicks love. Nobody talks about the Nets at all. Wherever Ben Simmons ends up, it's like a fucking gulag in Russia. They know what they're doing, and they know how to populate the superstars' teams with the help that will get them deep into the playoffs. And if it doesn't work, they'll give them all the calls late in games and make sure that they win that way. So you know something? I think they're making enough money. I really do. And I think if the players don't want to break an ankle trying to do some crazy dunk in a meaningless game, I don't blame them. Is it that big a deal? No. Hasn't been for some time. I never watched All-Star games because it doesn't count. It doesn't mean anything. I already know who the superstars are. I do a twice a week podcast, and I used to do a 5-day-a-week podcast, and I've been doing this for 21 years. I already know who they all are. You don't have to call them out by name. You don't have to televise an all-star game and keep feeding my head with, he's an all-star, he's an all-star, he's an all-star. Whatever. You make it 1 year when you're a fringe player. If you were Darius Garland, you made it 1 year. Let Jared Allen on the roster. Yeah, let him on that one time. But you just, I don't care. If Damian Lillard is 37 years old, and we're gonna make sure that Damian Lillard is the guy, because we're gonna honor him to make sure he's leading scorer of the game, that he's the MVP or whatever, before he's too old that he needs a walker. And then we'll do it with somebody else. It's like the parting gift at a fucking game show. Well, I won the All-Star Game MVP. Big fucking deal. That was an honor. It's a personal honor. Well, fuck you. Not enough honor being constantly televised. Not enough of an honor to be brought onto a team that's going to be one of the Final Four teams. I mean, is that not enough? Shallow accolades, man. Very shallow. That's what I think of the NBA. Here's the question that my new least favorite journalist on Cleveland.com, Jimmy Watkins. Jimmy Watkins is a fool. I don't know where they find people who say and write stupid things. This guy looks for a knee-jerk reaction to everything. Headline: how much do the 76ers threaten the Cavs' playoff hopes after Joel Embiid's knee injury? The Cavaliers are no threat. Jimmy, fuck off. Are you paying attention? You remember the Sixers, when they had Harden and all that? Remember that? They just let him go to the free throw line 20 times a game. Yeah. They don't need Joel Hans and Embiid. They don't, And right now, the 76ers really, the process, nobody really cares about that anyway. Embiid's been injured a lot in his career. But yes, they're on a pedestal, way up in the air compared to the Cavaliers. The Cavs' playoff hopes? One round. If they're fortunate, they win. They get beat in the second round. And you want to know what's going to happen next? The Cavaliers will sign Spida to an extension and trade him at the trade deadline next year. Do you know why? So he can go to Miami or New York. That's why, because that's where he wants to be. And you know something? That's fine. If he wants to be there, then let's get something for him. I mean, what would be wrong with trading him at the deadline? He's going to recontractualize for 1 year with the Cavaliers, and then you trade him off. Why don't you get Miles Bridges? Why don't you get a guy who's a real three, And rather than having to fall back on Dean Wade or whatever, and get him out on the floor and let Darius Garland resume handling the ball a little bit more and see if he can pick up his game, because he's the one who has been hurt the most by Donovan Mitchell's presence on the team. Donovan Mitchell is an exciting player. And watching him, it's really awe-inspiring. But every time that ball's in his hands and he's doing it all himself, there are 4 other men on the floor who are standing around. Let's be honest about it. And the one who gets hurt the most is Darius Garland, because the ball's out of his hands more than it ever was. And he was supposed to be the point guard, but it hasn't worked out that way. Because playing Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell together, no. JB Bickerstaff separates them with different crews. And it's not even a sure thing that Darius Garland will be finishing games. He didn't until very recently. And I'm not sure that's going to be the case as we go down the stretch. Another thing to remember is that Darius Garland averages playing between 62 and 65 games a year. He's hurt a lot. So once Donovan Mitchell is gone, you might as well find a good three out there and somebody who can score and play some defense and move along and try to get into the playoffs. I mean, if you took Spido away and you put Miles Bridges in, and you had at the heart of the team, you had Darius Garland handling the ball, then you have Strus at the 2, and then you have Miles Bridges, and then you have Mobley, and then you have Jared Allen. And that's your starting 5. And then coming off the bench, you can you can trade Karis LeVert and get something for him as well. But, you've got some 3-point shooters on the bench, whether it's Niang or whether it's, whoever you got, Sam Merrill coming off the bench. And for LeVert, you get some additional depth. That team's going to win 50 games, 47 games. You have a chance to get into the playoffs that way. Got no chance to go very far in the playoffs, but you're not going to go very far with Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs either. That's the bottom line. Do the 76ers threaten the Cavaliers? Something to laugh at. For Cleveland Browns fans, Deshaun Watson will begin throwing as soon as he's back from his vacay. Surgery was November 21st. They feel that the Browns offseason, which begins officially in April the 15th, that he'll be able to throw some during that period of time. So he's looking to get back. The word now is that he had the fractured glenoid bone in his shoulder. That was repaired surgically, but not the strained rotator cuff. Obviously, the rotator cuff was only strained, which meant micro tears, which means that it could heal. So there was no rotator cuff surgery on him. He's going back to the weight room out at UCLA. Mark Lewis has asked me a question. Hold on a minute here. I want to know if you think the Browns should watch what Ohio State is doing to bring back a winning program. And what would that be? Spending money? I'd say that Jimmy Haslam is spending a lot of money. Scouring the portal. Trying to pray to the baby Jesus that your players don't leave. And that you can bring in some fresh. That you can hire a 1 or 2 year offensive coordinator. There ain't no shortcut. Ohio State has been losing consistently to Michigan. And I understand. The guy who is the architect cheater for the University of Michigan is now going to be cheating in the NFL with the big boys. What the Browns should do, they're all in on Deshaun Watson. They got to use his salary to try to give him his money later as opposed to sooner, and still try to get some players, get him some wide receivers, and get him some people, and try to make the most out of what you got. And when you draft the lower picks, if it were me, one of those picks has to be a wide receiver, and then you got to start looking at offensive linemen. I'm sorry. The defense is where it's going to be. You need offensive line help because Conklin will be injured after 2 or 3 games again. It's going to be the same shit over and over again. You need to start revitalizing the offensive line because no matter who's quarterbacking for the Cleveland Browns, who's hurt, who's not, whether Nick Chubb comes back or doesn't, you still got to have protection for the quarterback who's playing, and you've got to have holes for running backs, whoever they may be. So you got to look at running backs in the draft as well. And you're going to have to maintain a zone blocking scheme and hope that your new offensive line coach knows how to handle that, which from all accounts, he does. I don't think there's any direct way that the Browns are going to be ultra relevant unless they get help on their offensive line because there's too many injuries, but it's not, people act like, oh, all these injuries were a fluke. Not for the offensive line. This offensive line has been battered and beaten for ages. These guys have been in the trenches and need help from younger players. That is funny. Holtman gets fired, and then the guy comes in and he beats Purdue, and everyone's saying, It's like, no, Ohio State doesn't have the talent in basketball. And, again, DeJuan Jones is an example of finding a third-round value, a guy who was questioned as far as his character and how hard he works. We'll see next year what kind of shape he comes in and whether he's serious about playing the game next year. We'll see. But it was a good year for him. But you can't leave Hudson out there on the field getting his ass whipped. You can't have that. You can't have Christian Jr. out there getting his ass whipped. You've got to have nuts and bolts for this team to work, because it's not like you're going to get the best wide receivers in the draft because you don't have the picks. You got to get some people to do what you want to do with Deshaun Watson. And they're talking about you're going to re-sign Joe Flacco. You know that Flacco is going to see if somebody will give him a starting position. And I've always said that the best position is a backup quarterback position. It extends the length of career. Now, you're not going to get big money, but steady money and the ability to come on the field virtually at any moment, at a moment's notice, without having all the expectations on you. There's something good about that. There's also something not so good about playing later and later and later in your age because you get beat up. What would I do? Would I re-sign Joe Flacco? I'm sure they're talking to him about it. But the bottom line is, if you're Joe Flacco, would you rather go to a shitty team and start? Because that's the only team that would start him would be a shitty team. Let's be honest about that. And he's a statue. If they don't have an offensive line, he'll get killed. Just like Aaron Rodgers will get killed in New York. He'll have one more injury that'll end his career, and that'll be the end of it. Done. No protection, no mobility. And it's not like his mobility is going to be better after tearing his Achilles tendon. Let's make that clear, too. But Deshaun's on the mend, and we'll see what he's got. Other than that, I'll say nothing about him. And in this zone we're in, which is the sports free zone, we got Terry Pluto asking this question: where will the Guardians find some outfielders? And it's like, is this fucking Groundhog Day? Why do I feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day? Day after day, month after month, year after year, the Guardians are looking for some outfielders. 19 out of 20 of the draft picks for the Cleveland Guardians were pitchers. Pitchers. That was 2 years ago. 19 out of 20. They didn't even try to get any hitters into their organization. When are they going to find some outfielders? Where are they going to find them? When you're playing people like Laureano and people like that, I mean, you're bringing in veterans who are failing in the game. I mean, look at what the front office did. It was crazy. The two guys they brought in to help this team, the free agents, they were terrible. How are you going to shore up your hitting problems? They never learn. Oh, we're going to try to find a guy who's going to give us one good year. If he has one good year, Mike Zunino and Josh Bell. I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Mike Zunino and Josh Bell. And know what they're going to do this year? They've already done it. Florial, the guy from the New York Yankees, who was at one time their top-rated minor league guy. He's now going to be coming to Cleveland. Why? Because he failed. In Class AAA for the Yankees, he batted .284 with 28 home runs and 79 runs batted in. You're like, ooh. But he's 26 years old. If he was for shit, he'd have been playing with the Yankees. Well, in the minor leagues, he struck out 144 times out of 482 plate appearances. Oh, yeah. Do the math. That's one every 3.5 times. According to new manager Stephen Vogt, yep, he passes the eye test. Whatever the hell that means. He can't hit the ball, but he passes the eye test. The whiff test. Oh, he stole 25 bases. He could run, but he can't make contact. If you're striking out 33% of the time in the minor leagues, you don't get to play in the big leagues. And that's what we did to beef up our outfield. And he has to play. That's the other thing. We got to give him a chance. You hear what this team is saying, and it's like, yeah, I guess we made a mistake. The Josh Bell thing, it's really hilarious. Here's what Antonetti said after the season. Last year, we made choices to allocate some of these at-bats to veterans. In retrospect, maybe we would have been better served giving some of those at-bats to the younger guys who also can't hit. It's pretty bad. Will Benson and Nolan Jones were traded. Benson hit .275 with 11 home runs and 31 runs batted in for the Reds. He stole 19 bases. He's strictly a guy who hits righties. Can't hit lefties. He hit .297 against righties, but he was hitting a 142 against lefties. Then you had Nolan Jones, who is taking advantage of the light air, playing with the Colorado Rockies. But he had 20 home runs and 62 runs batted in and 424 plate appearances for the Rockies. Do you know that the entire outfield of the Cleveland Guardians hit 16 home runs last year? Fucking Nolan Jones in part of a season in Colorado hit more home runs than the entire outfield of the Cleveland Guardians. There isn't a single move this organization could make unless it was out of town. Nobody cares about them anymore. I know I don't. They have no chance. The only headline is, who's Bieber going to be traded to and when? Oh, and we're bringing back Cookie Carrasco. I swear to God. We're the guys who said, we're going to roll with Oscar Gonzalez. And after a year went, nope. Then there was Owen Miller. Oh, yeah, he's an infielder with some pop in his bat. Nope. If you're wondering whatever happened to Owen Miller went to the Milwaukee Brewers. That's where he went. But just like he did in Cleveland, the second half of the year, once the league figured out how to pitch him, he got dumped and sent to the minors. Suckitude. That's the Guardians. I'm just looking at what I can even talk about. We talked about the never-ending quandary of the New Jersey Nets. Yeah, I'm going to start calling them New Jersey again. Oh, rebuild mode. Rebuild assumes that you get built. When was the last time they were built? What are they recovering from, a decade ago? Make it stop, dear COD. Make it stop. So the Nets did what all teams do. When in doubt, you have a lousy team and you straddle a coach with really bad players, you fire him, especially if he's a minority guy. That's what happened to Jacques Vaughn. Oh, yeah. The guy did a good job. When he has some players. Here comes David Talevsky. Hi, David.
Hey, Moo, got the earbud problem fixed.
Way to go.
Yeah, I bought a cheap pair for about $4, so for this, it works perfectly.
Hey, that's it. Use your imagination. That's what I was talking about. You want to watch sports games? Use your imagination. You'd be amazed what your imagination can do.
Imagine you're watching something better.
That would be another thing. Right. Watch movies, watch documentaries, watch something that,
Watch paint dry.
There you go. Yeah, the Brooklyn Nets fired Jacques Vaughn. And, but you don't really want to piss everybody off. So you promote Kevin Ollie to replace him.
Ollie Oxenfried?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest about it. You fire a black guy, but you bring up a black guy, and neither of them are in your future plans. Let's be honest about this. If any coach ended up with the players that the Nets have ended up with, the result would be the same. Last year, as overall in 2 seasons, Vaughn was 71-68. He was 0-8 in the playoffs because that's what we're talking about. You get to the playoffs, but you don't go any further than that. He replaced Steve Nash as the coach, and he went 43-32, but he got swept in the first round of the playoffs. But that's pretty good, going 43-32 with the Nets. Not then. Ben Simmons. You could only withstand so much. You know how many times they've tried to resurrect this team? Fucking Ruski buys the team.
Probably more times than I've been alive.
Yeah. It's like, well, we're going to bring in Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Fail. Yeah. We're going to bring in, and then, it keeps going and going and going. And, then look what they do. Oh, we're going to get rid of that Jared Allen guy. He sucks. Really brilliant, Yeah. And you got the fucking Ruski owner. I tried to make team better, but now I spent all my money.
Not enough vodka to help.
I'm going to drink is what I'm going to do, comrade. God almighty. So they fired their coach. Ain't that wonderful? We should feel sorry for Kevin Ollie. He's a clay pigeon. That's what he is.
Yep.
Now, there are, I'm just about done because I don't have that much to talk about, but here's something that really makes you shake your big cow head. Another team they've tried to resurrect countless times for the Los Angeles Angels. They just want baseball to mean something in Los Angeles in the American League, and it doesn't go anywhere.
Which technically they're not Los Angeles, it's Anaheim.
That's
the
right.
Anaheim Angels.
That's right. But get this. The Angels third baseman Anthony Rendon says baseball, quote, has never been a top priority for me. And that he plays just to make a living.
If baseball's not a top priority for him, what the hell is? That's what I'm wondering.
You know, he was asked whether his perspective on the game has changed, and he said, it's never been a priority for me. This is a job. I do this to make a living. My faith, my family come first before this job. So if those things come before it, I'm leaving. By the way, he's 33 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they signed him in one of their resurrection modes for a 7-year, $245 million deal in 2019 because he was coming off a World Series title with the Washington Nationals at the time.
Where on earth did the MLB find this money?
He was a two-time Silver Slugger, but he hasn't played more than 58 games in any of the 4 seasons with the Angels because of injuries. This is a motherfucker. I'm sorry. I don't know the man, but if his faith means anything to him, he's going to hell. Somebody gives you $245 million and a 7-year deal, and over 4 years, you play 232 games when a full season is 162. And you scoop up that money, and then in front of God and the press, you say, oh, no, this isn't a priority to me. Take the fucking money away from him. You said you're married, you have 4 kids. See how well they eat without the fucking money, you asshole. God. See, I would do anything I could to cut that motherfucker and to find a way for cause to screw him out of the money. I mean, that is pathetic. That was
at least it's not the Pittsburgh Pirates.
No, the Guardians will find a way to Rendon. I guarantee it.
Yep.
But then there was one more bizarre baseball story, and I don't talk baseball very much because it's really not very relevant. But you know it's a slow time of the year when this comes up as a headline. 3-time World Series champ attempting Major League Baseball comeback. I want to play baseball. So he's the opposite of Rendon, who it's not a priority. This guy wants to play baseball. He's 37 years old. And does anybody remember Pablo Sandoval?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he played for the San Francisco Giants when they were world champions. All right. And he was a fine player, and he was a real spark plug for the team. But like most of us, he got old. Right. He last played for the Atlanta Braves in 2021. He had all of 73 at bats, and he hit 178. In the 3 years since, he has played in Mexico, in Venezuela. That's the Venezuelan Winter League, Puerto Rico Winter League, and Dubai. I didn't even know they played fucking baseball in Dubai. What do they do? They have oil heaters in the dugout?
I don't know.
But that's where he's played. And he wants to come back. I want to play baseball, Sandoval said. I think he needs some money. I'm going to get back. This is going to be an inspiration for me after being out for a long time. to get back on track. It's not going to be easy. It's a big challenge. I've been through this before, and this one's going to be more special. Do you want to know why? Do you want to know why, David?
Why?
Because if you go back to when he was with the Giants, he got fat. He was the fattest player in Major League Baseball. He gained such girth, he looked like fucking me.
Shit.
Yeah, he gained so much weight. He's a third baseman. And that coincided with a rapid decline in his career, and he wasn't taking conditioning seriously. So now we're to believe that he's going to really get in great shape. Meanwhile, the Giants general manager addressed the club signing with tongue-in-cheek response. We had to sign Pablo because the workout videos he was sending me were taking up all the space on my phone. If lifting hamburgers was going to build our muscles.
Well, those triple whoppers, they do weigh a bit of, they are pretty heavy.
Jeez, oh, weezo. At any rate, that's all I've got today because that's all that's really fit to print. But I will say this. Yeah, if you want to watch sports today, use your imagination. But you know, if Bally's is going to fuck everybody over, including Major League Baseball, including the Cleveland market, including everybody, and that's the only way to watch the game, don't watch the game. Let them and their stupid asses roast. Let them go away. When they start showing the games with an honorable company, and you can watch the games again. Nobody is going to get mad at you. Or if you want to risk going to jail, you can pilfer the games if it's that important to you. Choice is yours.
In the meantime, I've been like going through all the old 80s Browns games on YouTube. I just started. I'm watching week 4 between the Browns and the Chargers at Jack Murphy Stadium. I'm almost done with it.
A lot of people are doing that. You know, I know a lot of guys who record the games during the season so that there's no real off season. So that way they can tell their wives.
Yeah, this is a thing for me because these games were before my time.
Oh, so what are you watching?
I'm watching the old Browns games from the 80s. Some of them are on YouTube.
Oh, you're watching what, the Bernie days?
Well, I'm on the 85 season right now with Gary Danielson.
Oh, so Danielson's still starting. You haven't seen Bernie come trotting out on the field yet.
It depends on if they have the game. Right now, I'm watching the game week 4 against the Chargers when they went into Jack Murphy Stadium. I'm like towards the end of the fourth quarter.
Well, it's happening. It seems to me that Gary Danielson only played maybe 6 or 7 games. Not because he got hurt, but because it was great.
Yeah.
They handed the ball over to Bernie. Literally, he just came trotting out on the field. The stadium went nuts. Yeah.
The interesting thing about this game is Dan Fouts left with an injury. So they were playing the Chargers backup.
Oh, who is their backup?
Mark Herman.
Wow. That's a name I hadn't heard in a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, Gary Danielson was a good fella. Good fella, good teammate. He really was a good vet guy. Kind of like a Flacco-esque guy.
Yeah.
And he was a placeholder for Bernie. But it's cool, you know. But yeah, a lot of guys do this. They watch games either from the past or they relive the season that they just got through, and they tell their wives, 17 weeks. I'm Sunday. I'm watching the games.
I also got to watch that Monday night game they had in week 2 that season when it was Mark Malone with the Steelers. Then the Browns won 17-7.
Mark Malone. I mean, he was the only person who I'd ever seen wave a terrible towel and the fans just said, fuck you.
Oh, man.
By the time he was done in Pittsburgh. They fucking hated him. Him and Bubby Brister. They fucking hated him. You know, they would do that whipping motion, and the fans would go, "Fuck you."
Yep.
And I think the Steeler fans are heading into another "fuck you" territory. You know.
Yep.
And
they've been linked to Justin Fields.
Yep. And
I don't know. I don't think Chicago will do it, though.
Well, you know, first of all, Kenny Pickett is not really high on the list right now, and they have nobody else. I mean, Mason Rudolph has already said that he wants to go looking for another job. When Mason Rudolph says, "I'd want to find another team to play for," well,
and they cut Trubisky, who Tony Grossi for some reason wants to bring in as a backup.
Oh, well, for God's sakes. I mean, I don't mind if he comes back to mentor. He wants to come back to mentor and he wants to check groceries out. That's cool. He ain't no quarterback for a professional football franchise. And, you know, as far as Justin Fields is concerned, you know, he better make his next stop a damn good one. Yep. Because, you know, after what happened in Chicago, whether it's his fault or not, I remember we played him in his first game, and oh my God, do you remember what he looked like?
Yeah, he was just completely shell-shocked.
I've been a chicken with its head cut off. I mean, really.
The whole game.
Huh?
He peed on himself the whole game.
Yeah, it was bad. It was a real bad showing. It was the kind of thing that you hate to see. It was PJ Walker-esque. And, you know, again, wherever he goes, it better be the right choice, because if he goes to the wrong team, his career's done.
Yep.
You start losing in a couple places in a row. See, a guy like Baker wins a little in Cleveland, then loses, but it's the Browns. Browns is Browns. I'll forgive him. And then, you know, he goes to the Panthers and, you know, nothing. And eventually he makes his way out to the Rams, and it's like, look at Baker. Baker's bringing their season back to life.
Yep.
And then he, when it counts, and then he ends up in Tampa. It's like, oh, look, Baker's winning again. At least he's off and on. If you're just off, you're done.
Yep.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thanks, everybody, for tuning into this edition of Moohead Radio. You know that I'm a big sports fan, and I watch because I like to watch. But as far as really understanding the inner workings, I understand business. So you can bet two things. One, it doesn't keep me up at night when I'm sleeping, that a Cleveland team gets screwed in some way. That doesn't bother me. Not for any duration of time, although it's great fodder to do this program because it's a great impetus to get on the air and blow off steam. But I don't hold that for very long because I know what business is, you know? And the other thing is, I will find a way to fuck them. You see, in the end, there is, you know, the teams that I don't mind. I don't mind the Browns, even though Jimmy Haslam's a thief. I don't mind that because he's putting money into the team.
Exactly.
And Dan Gilbert was never my favorite guy. I feel bad for him losing his son, and I feel terrible that he had a health situation, had a stroke. I feel bad about that. It has nothing to do with personal. I mean, although he and I have very different characters and we disagree on a lot of things, let's just put it that way. He brought a winner to Cleveland. He dug into his pocket and he put quality players on the floor. And that's the way sports teams should be judged. And, you know, I don't mind financially supporting that. But the Guardians, fuck no. You know, it's a game where you have to invest money. And Dick Jacobs proved that, you know. Then they tried to live off of, you know, the minor league players that they brought up through their system. But these dumbasses, the Dolans, these idiots, They have scorched their own minor league system because they're too cheap to keep that up. And they just want to keep getting pitchers to try to snooze the fans to death in 2-1 games.
Yep.
And they're not going to be close to 500 this year. This poor coach is walking into just a hailstorm. It's going to be bad news.
I give them at least a year or two before they move off of him.
Yeah, and I feel bad. You know, the guy wants a chance to be a big league manager, but it's not a big league roster. It's not a big league team, really. Yep. And, you know, so somebody who's just in it to get the revenue sharing money out of it, I don't care about them. And I won't talk about them. I don't give a shit. So, you know, we all draw the line in a different place. But if they're not trying to win, there is no point. I mean, business is business. If that's the business they've chosen, great. I don't choose them. Simple.
Yep.
All right. Well, David, thanks for jumping in. I'm glad you got your earbuds, man.
No problem.
All right. We'll talk later.
You got it.
All right, man. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And I'll be back again, gosh, on Friday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Boo.
Moo.